Hey, Stewart's Chapel, this is Don Pierson, Don Counts, and we're here at Fayetteville Square, and this is Saturday's devotion. I want to read a passage from Psalms chapter 19, Psalms 19, verse 14, just one verse. I know I've told this story many times at Stewart's Chapel, and I may have even hinted at it on a devotion before, but I got thinking about it again today and thought, I need to share that one more time. Well, I say that, I'll probably do that again because it means so much to me. Psalms 19, verse 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord. I normally share this event in relationship to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, but I also experienced the same thing in Gaza. And what was interesting in Gaza was that the Germans had come into Gaza and had built. Gaza is so war-torn. Every building looks like it's been bombed. Everything is just sand and desert, and the country is just impoverished and destitute. Everything is like going back in time. The streets are filled with donkeys and mules pulling old wooden carts. But right in the middle of all of this, the Germans had come in and had built this gorgeous, beautiful, solid red granite building right in the heart of Gaza, right in the heart of all the Palestinians. Was this giant red granite building. You know what it was for? It was for the deaf. Gaza has one of the largest deaf populations of the world. I don't know why that is, but that's what I was told at that time. And the Germans had gone in and built this building as a gift to them. It served two purposes. It was a school for them, and it was a trades school for them. And we went in. We did a tour through this building. In one area, there was this shop where everything that they were making was of wood. Some incredible works of handicraft that were made out of wood. Another place, it was all looms where they were making all this stuff out of fabric, and on and on and on. And every part of this beautiful building, the deaf were busy making things. It was a very quiet place. In fact, the noise was the silence was disturbed by my wife and I and the missionary that was guiding us, because other than that, it was quiet. But it was actually noisy. What I mean by that is not the noise from the wood shop or the fabrics or any of the other stuff. No, the noise was, the air was filled with, and I don't know any kind of sign language, as you can tell, but they were communicating. And so as I was watching, my mind was literally just being saturated with the sounds. And I realized that they were talking and just communicating back and forth. The missionary would share some of the testimonies of some of the individuals that were Christians that were in there. Not everybody in there were Christian, but there were some Christians in there, and he was sharing the testimony, and that those individuals were responding to one another, and it was a place that was very quiet and very loud. The same thing happened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where I had the opportunity to be invited to the translation of experiencing God into sign language. And as I sat there in that room filled with deaf individuals, though I couldn't understand a word, I was able to worship. The noise of their hands filled the air. The missionary who had brought me there, his name was Ray, came to the point where it was over, and he said in English, "Let us pray." So I naturally closed my eyes, bowed my head, but nothing happened. In the darkness of my eyes, and I waited for someone to pray. And then all of a sudden I realized that I was missing most of the prayer. I opened my eyes, and their heads were lifted up, their eyes were wide open, and they all were praying in sign language all at the time, and I just began to weep. I began to weep because I realized that worship was taking place, and if I had kept my eyes closed, I had already missed most of it. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Worship is much more than words. It's much more than the music that we hear. It's much more than making sure that the words of the song are proper. Through the years, I have found that there's really only one requirement for true worship, and that is a heart that seeks after Him. We're impressed by well-worded and elegant prayers. The truth is, we're not that much different than the Pharisees. Their prayers impress us. But God does not look at prayer or men by the words. He looks far deeper. A long time ago, I realized that I can fool men by what comes out of here, but I can never fool God. If we can ever get that right, if we can ever get to the place where we don't ever forget that, we'll worship more. Some of the most beautiful times of worship that I have known have been the most quiet times of worship, and yet the loudest, not loud like you're thinking. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.